Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Maseches ARACHIN Daf Dalet. We begin 4 lines off the top of the Yom and back to our list of cases, instances where the Brisa or the Mishnah will stipulate. We'll actually list out all segments of our nation, Kohanim, Levim, and Israelim, with respect to certain obligations. And the question is, well, obviously, if it's not them, Kohanim, Levim, and Israelim, then who then, right? And the Gemara will endeavor to, discover the chiddush, the novelty, in relating these mitzvahs to Kohanim, Levim, and Israel. Perhaps you would think that, for instance, Kohanim are exempt from this particular mitzvah for some reason. Hence, the Brisa has to emphasize they're all included. So here goes. We discuss Sukkah, Tzitzis, Tefillin, Tkei Shofar, Hakol Chayavim b'Mikra Megillah. Now comes Megillah on Purim. Brisa stipulates all are obligated. All are included in this mitzvah of reading, listening to the Megillah. Whether you are belonging to the Kohanim or Levim, Yisraelim Pshita, it goes without saying, obviously, if they're not going to be obligated, then who is? Well, the answer is to teach us another element of the obligation of the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah, to what extent it carries. Live Tuli Avidasim, to tell you that even if it entails suspending the service in the Beis HaMikdash, so you're involved in bringing a korban. It's your turn, it's your rotation today. You have to be standing and serving, whether you're a kohen with the actual avodah or levim, which accompany the kohanim with song, etc., or you're part of today's group of Yisrael that come stand by the korbanists to be there, to watch, to observe as required. So even though it's your turn today, take time out and go listen to the Megillah. Live Tuli Avodas. Uked Rabbi Dam Shmuel. Dam Rabbi Dam Shmuel. Kohanim ba'avodas. Kohanim while they're serving. Levim b'duchanim. Levim. In the midst of standing on their stage and singing, Yisrael Ma'amad and Yisrael, in their Ma'amad, they used to divide Israel into 24 groups. And each week another group would go up and observe and watch the karbanis. You see, ideally an owner of a korban should be standing by while this korban is brought. It represents the owner, right? It's a personal experience. Likewise, Yisrael had to be on site to observe the hakrav of the karbanis tzibur, and they would have 24 groups who would come back, twice a year, one group per week, to observe the hakrav of the tamid and all the karbanis tzibur. So despite the enormity of this undertaking, despite the importance of this experience, you meant to stop, take a time out, and come over to shul to hear the Megillah. Next is Zimun. Hakol Chayavim b'Zimun. All are chayiv in the mitzvah of Zimun, enjoying together to make a collective birchas hamazon, right? The Baruch Shachal Meshaloi, and the group responds, right? Baruch, right? Whether it's Kohanim, Levim, Israelim, and again the question is Pshita, obviously it's Richa, the answer is the Ka'achli Kachim. We're speaking that Kohanim are eating korban material. Now, which korban material requires benching? A mincha, right? As the Gemara in Bracha tells us, that a mincha, which is pretty much like a lafa, it was technically not chametz, not allowed to make a mincha into chametz, even the part that the Kohanim eat. It was technically matzah, but it wasn't necessarily a crispy matzah. It was like a lafa, like a pita. So in any case, it requires birchas hamazon, a full benching. It's bread, but since it's korban material, perhaps it has a different system. I would think to say like this. The pasuk in relation to eating karbana says, "Va'achlu oisam asher kurpar behem amar Rachman." Torah specifies that they're meant to eat karbanis, achloisam, which will generate kapara. It adds an element of atonement. So the part that goes in the mizbeach does his part, and the part that the kohanim eat will also achieve kapara for the owner. So this consumption is part of the kapara process on behalf of the owner. So perhaps it's not considered like a regular meal, where you establish yourself together with your friends to have a meal. It's a different type of experience. You're eating off Hashem's table. It's a different thing. Kamashmon, the point of the Brayah says, no, we treat it like any other with respect to zimun obligations. V'achalta v'savata. Amarachmon, Torah stipulates you eat and you're satiated, and you bench and you say zimun. V'yisnu, fact is, this food also accomplishes the same. It fills, it satiates. So you did the Berachas HaMazayin in a zimun configuration like anything else. Next brisa, hakoch mitzdarfen l'zimun. All individuals can join together, are eligible to join each other, combined for a zimun experience, whether you belong to the Kohanim group, Levim, Yisrael, Pshita. Of course, why wouldn't you join together, Kohanim and Levim, if they ate at the same time, the same meal? The answer is the Koachlit Kohanim, Truma, Kachim. They're eating different materials. The Kohanim eat Truma. You can have, grain, right? Truma, which is bread, or Kadashim, or you have the mincha material, which is carbon. And you have a Yisrael, a non-Kohen, eating alongside them. Mazar ka'achal chulin. A Zor is eating his own personal food, chulin material. Now, could you have a Zor eating chulin in the same location of the Kohen eating the mincha, which has to be in the Azora? So perhaps the Zor was sitting right outside, the next room, which was within eyesight, within this field of vision, which is enough to combine them into one group. So I would think perhaps, since they're eating different materials and they can't really join together, at least the Zor can't join the Kohen. There's room to think. Since if the Zor wishes to partake in the Kohen's food, to eat by the Kohen together with the Kohen, he's locked out. It's not for you. He can't eat it. Perhaps he'll starve, so he can't combine with them for a zimun. Kamashmon, the point is yes. Zor. Truthfully, the Zor cannot join with the Kohen and partake in his food because the truma of the Kohen or the kachma of the Kohen is not suitable for him, but the reverse does work. The Kohen chooses to join the Zor on his side of the table, he could join his food. So therefore, it's considered a kriyus, it's considered one single meal experience, and they could join together in zimun. Now let's go back to our Masech, back on Daf Beis Amud Aleph. Hakol marichem. All can initiate, can declare an erech. I'm obligated to give that person's value, my own value. Whether it's Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim, and again, Pshita, of course. Amar Rabbi Nitzrach, it's needed to tell you that a Kohen is included. Elul ben Bukhri. And this follows the Shita of a Chacham by the name of Ben Bukhri, who will tell us in the upcoming Mishnah that with respect to a different halacha, Machzas ha-shekel, right, a half-shekel coin that they would collect once a year from everybody, the Kohanim were exempt. We're going to see that in the upcoming Gemara. And since we find a linkage between shekel and erachin, so perhaps just like he's locked out of shekel, he's locked out of erachin system as well. And that's the point of the Mishnah, to say, no, they're not necessarily one and the same system. This is not. Where do we find this discussion regarding whether or not a kohen is meant to contribute a machzah shekel into the collective, carbon fund? There's not. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Heid ben Bukhri. Ben Bukhri testified, B'Yavna, when the yeshiva was in Yavna, he says that even though the Kohanim are exempt from machzah shekel, because Rashi points out, it says that the shekel applies to kol ha'over l'pekudim, all that we count in the Mishkan and in the Midbar. The Kohanim were not included. Levim were not included in that count. They had their own. Levim had their own count. So, despite their exemption, nevertheless, they choose to contribute. Great, we accept it. Kol kohen shekel, the kohen chooses to contribute to the machzah shekel fund. He's not a sinner. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll see soon, because he's really granting it to the public fund. It's not his private money anymore. He's giving it over wholeheartedly. So it can be used to finance karbanis, but he's not obligated. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he responded just the opposite. Actually, look, it's incorrect. Ella, rather, kol kohen she'enei shekel chayte. You should know if a kohen fails to contribute a shekel, he is a sinner, because, as Rashi points out, he's coming from a different pasuk. Zeh yitnu. This, Zeh. And Zeh has two letters, Zayin and Hey. Numerically, B'gematria, 12. To cover all the 12 Shvatim, including Levi and the Kehanim. And although the Pasuk says Kol Ever Lapkudim, he learns Kol Ever means all those who pass through the Yam Suf, during Kriyas Yam Suf. Even the Kehanim and Leviim experienced that. So they're obligated, like all of us. Ella, rather, where are the Kehanim coming from? Shekehanim, because the Kehanim chose to exempt themselves based on the following Pasuk, which I maintain is an erroneous source. Dorsh and Mikrozel Atzman, they interpret the following Pasuk to their own benefit, to generate an exemption. Pasuk says, "V'chol minchas kohen kol tia lo te'achla." Mincha that a kohen contributes, kohen brings, kol tia is totally burnt. No part of it is eaten, unlike a minchas Yisrael, where parts are eaten. So once that's the rule by minchas kohen, how do you expect us to contribute to the carbon fund, which is used partially to finance menachos? We have several public menachos. The Omer, Shtei Alechem on Shavuos, Lechem Aparim on a weekly basis. Obviously, we can't contribute. Otherwise, you couldn't eat those karbanis as per the halacha of minchas kohen. Hoil v'omer, Shtei Alechem. V'lechem Aparim Shalom Ohim. If those items are being financed by our contributions, how are you going to eat them? So they exempt themselves. But truthfully, Rashi explains, it was a mistake, because this rule of kol tia applies to a personal mincha of a kohen that he personally brings, but minchas tzibur, publicly offered mincha, zil basar ruba, says Rashi. Follow the majority. The majority stake is Yisraelim. So the part that the kohen owns is sort of subordinate to the rest, and is batal to the rest, and we don't have to consider it a minchas kohen. But in any case, back to Ben Bukhri, who says that they're exempt, but they couldn't. So the question is, will Ben Bukhri now be? You don't call it Ben Bukhri, it's a question. Since initially they're not obligated to bring their shekel, so even if they choose to bring, they're not being generous. It's a chet, because they're generating chulin in the azara, because their money will be used to buy carbonates, which isn't really carbon, it's coming from privately owned money. The answer is the kohen brings it and it gives it over wholeheartedly to the public. It's yours to use. It's not mine. In which case it becomes kaddish like anything else. Now back to our discussion. If so, that we have an opinion of Ben Bukhri that a kohen is exempt from machzas hashekel, salkadaitach. I mean, there's room to think. Since the pasuk links shekel to erech, erech and shekel go together in the same breath. Called the Yisei Shkolim, Yisei Berachin, perhaps only one who is in the Shkolim system is in on the Erachin as well. But the Kohanim are out. They're out. Since Kohanim are exempt from Shkolim, according to Ben Bukhri, Lesnu, Barachin, they're exempt from Arachin as well. Kamashman comes to the mission and says, no, there's no connection. Only Abayi, why would you think to make a connection? This pasuk, Kol Erkecha, which mentions shekel, is coming from an entirely different halacha, unrelated to this. This pasuk is not coming to link shekel to erech, rather to teach you. If a fellow can't really financially afford to pay up a full erech, 50 shekel, whatever the rate is, the kohen can give him a discount based on his financial situation. But the smallest amount is a shekel, which we call a selah. Selah is a term that the Chachamim use to refer to a shekel. That's what the pasuk is teaching us. Call arachin, all arachin payments, shatamarach, which you'll assess. Lo yu puchas misela, you can't go below a selah. So that's what the pasuk is coming for. Ela Abai says Abai Istrich. I'll tell you why we have to emphasize that Kohanim are in on the erachin, not because of the linkage to shekel. Rather, there's room to think. Since the pasuk regarding Pidyon Haben says, it mentions a reference to erech. Uptuyev. So we find the word be'erkecha with relation to Pidyon Haben, which certainly doesn't apply to a kohen and a Levi. They're exempt from Pidyon Haben. So perhaps that's the linkage that would generate an exemption for erechin as well. Hence the brisa. Hence the brisa's clarification otherwise. Only one who is subject to Pidyon Haben is subject to erechin process, but otherwise not. These kohanim, they're not subject to Pidyon Haben, as we had back in Maseches Bechoros. Perhaps they're out of erechin as well. Lesnu be'erechin. Kamashman comes to Brisa and says, no, just because they're part of Pidyon Haben, but they're still in the erechin process. So Amalei Rava responds. So you mean whenever it says be'erkecha, we're going to link it to Erachin, Elamiyat, if that's the case. What about Gabi Eil Asham? A ram which is an Asham, which a fellow brings, the stole and denied with a shvur, and then he comes and admits, he has to bring an atonement. T'chsiv, where we also have the term be'erkecha. That's Hashama, Yavel Hashem, Eil Tamim and Atzayin, be'erkecha. Hachanam, there too, you're going to link the two, and expel the Kohanim from the Asham system. The Chol the Issa be'erchen, Issa be'ela Asham. Only one who's on the Erchen track is on the Eila Asham track. So let's say Tumtum Madreganus. Sorry, not the Kohen. Tumtum Madreganus. Lesno be'erchen. They're not subject to the Erchen system, as we learned back on that base, because they're not definite male or female. You mean to say they're locked out of the Eila Asham as well? Lesno be'ela Asham? The Patum Karban Asham? Impossible. They were like anybody else. They have to bring karbanis. You can't say they locked them out of karbanis. So basically, back to our question, why would we have to clarify that Kohanim are subject to the Erechim process? And the fact that Torah mentions the word be'erkecha with relation to Bidna Ben doesn't mean that there's a link between Erech and right? Elam Arava, V'itei Rav Ashi. Israel explained to you why the Brisa had to clarify that Kohanim are subject to the Erechim system. Why would I think otherwise? There's room to think. Since the pasuk with relation to a person who can't afford a full payment, it says they stand them up before the kohen to assess him. So it sounds like before the kohen, but he's not a kohen. He's a Yisrael presenting to the kohen to assess him. Below kohen, we can learn that it doesn't apply to a kohen who will have to be stood up before a fellow kohen. No, that doesn't work. Kamashman, the point is yes. The kohen is in the same process like anybody else. Okay, let's continue. Mishnah back on that base tells us any individual can be the subject of someone's erech. So you can point to someone and say, I'm giving his erech. Hakol erech, and what's that for? Who are including there? Lasuya, to include a repulsive person or a person full of boils who's not really productive, is not marketable as a slave. So although he doesn't have nether, which means to say you can't commit his market value, he doesn't have that. But he has erech. He has a fixed rate determined by the Torah. But not only that, how do we know that this is so? Tan Rabbanon, we have a price. Tan Rabbanon be'erkecha. Pasuk says, Ish ki yafli neder be'erkecha. The word be'erkecha, nefashas Hashem, the word be'erkecha, is coming to teach us lahavi erech sasum, to include even an unspecified erech, which the Gemara will explain later. He didn't actually identify his person. He just says, I'm giving you an erech. He's obligated. Okay. Another point that we learn from be'erkecha, erech kuluhu noisen. You're only obligated to give erech if you committed yourself to the full erech of a whole person. As opposed to if you committed only to give the erech of a hand, of a foot of someone. You can't do that. Erech is something which relates to the totality of the person and his life force. But let's say he pledged the erech of a vital organ, head, heart. That represents the whole person, and that triggers a full obligation. Yochel, shani moitzi, perhaps I'll exempt after even an organ which is vital, which his life hangs on. The erech depends on nefesh, on life force. So yes, a vital organ counts. What else do we learn from nefesh shoyis? You can't make an erech on a lifeless person. He has to have life. Or you see esameis, or perhaps only exempt a mace. But what about loyitzis hagoyis? Not going to exempt a goyis. The person is on the verge of dying. The fact is, he's still alive. Tamalaymar comes to pasuk midoi, and then it says veherich. And we learn only one who has the ability to be stood up for assessment. Only one who can be stood up before the kohen. Yeshnim ba'aracha, erechon applies to him, as opposed to a goyis who can't. Who can't have amada. Aracha doesn't apply to him as well. So there's no erech on a goyis. Another point that we learn from nefashos. So nefashos is plural. You can make an erech on a full group at once. So not only if you point to a single person, erech plenty, even if you point to a whole chevron shul and say, look, I want to give the full erech of all of them. That single pledge obligates him. En li ela echad sherech echad. Perhaps erech is only Reuven vis-a-vis Shimon. What about Reuven making an erech on 100 people? Even plural, even a full group at once works. Another point that we learn from the Fashais, return time and base. And the more later we'll actually ask, how can we learn so many things from the same pasuk? Okay, so in the pasuk we have the word ish, a person, a man. What about a woman? Can she obligate herself an erech? Ish. We only find that a man is obligated if he sheherech, who declared his erech on another man, another woman, ben ish, ben isha. What about a woman who initiates her erech? In isha sharicha, she obligated to herself to an erech, whether another man, ish, or the erech of another woman, isha sharicha isha. But then how do we know that counts? Tamleim nefashais, right? Nefashais is unrelated to gender, so any person, whether a man or woman, can obligate themselves. Yet another halacha from the Fashais is l'rabis menuvel l'mukashchin. Okay, this is what we're looking for. That even a menuvel l'mukashchin who does not have concept of market value, but erech will apply to him. It's an absolute value unrelated to his productivity. Shall I would think otherwise, but what the pasuk mentions neder and erech in the same breath. Neder, which is related to market value, be'erkecha, which is related to fixed price. So it's stated together as one. I would think it goes hand in hand. If you're in on this, you're in on that, and vice versa. Kol she'eshtem b'damim. A fellow who's in on the damim track has market value. He's productive. So where damim applies, likewise erech applies. Yeshna be'erechin. But a menuvel umukashchin chol she'enim b'damim who damim doesn't apply to. Eina be'erechin, perhaps erechin doesn't either apply to tamulaim and fashais, any life. So although in this case neder does not apply, but erech does. What is v'hoya ercha coming to add? L'rabbi is tumtum adregim l'damim. So even though these individuals who aren't really gender specific, are not under the erech track as we explained before, but damim does apply. So if one pledges their actual value, it works. I would think otherwise. I would think, again, we link the two systems together. Neder be'erkecha. The pasuk is matching the neder to the erech system. And they go hand in hand. Kol she'yeshna be'erechin, yeshna be'damim. Kol she'ena be'erechin, ena be'damim. If erechin applies, damim applies. Otherwise, like a tumtum, adrenus, perhaps damim doesn't either apply. Tamulayma v'hoya erkecha. It's coming to add even damim by these individuals. And the reason is because regarding erechin, it says hazachar, the extra hey, teaches us that it has to be a definite zachar or a definite nekeva. Hazachar, zachar v'letumtum adreginus. So they can't have the erech of a zachar. What about the erech of a nekeva? Yachel. Lo yu berech ish, perhaps. A tumtum adreginus do not have the erech of a man because they're not a defined man. Aval yu berech isha, perhaps it can get the value of an isha, tamalay mar. So it says v'haya erkecha hazachar, and then it says v'im nekeva, we link the nekeva system to the zachar system. So the extra v'im says that it runs the same system as a zachar. In order to be subject to the erech, you have to have definite identity. Zachar, vadai, a definite zachar, and likewise nekeva vadois. So these are subject to erech, but not a tumtum, below a tumtum adreg. So although they're out of erech, but neder would apply. Now we're going to go back and review and reanalyze some of the halachas just mentioned in the brisa. Amar, let's go back and review be'erkecha. That word teaches us l'rabbis to include even erech stam. Now, what exactly is erech stam? My erech stam, the sanya, we have it in the brisa. So typically, you identify the person who's the subject of your erech, and based on gender and age, you have the specified fixed rates in the Torah. But suppose you didn't really identify your person. The Sani, we have a brisa, ha'omer, a fellow gets up and says, erech stam olai. An unspecified erech is upon me. Harei olai erech, I'm giving an erech. What, when, where, how? He leaves it for us to figure out. How much does he give? 50 shekel as per the highest rate, or perhaps the lowest rate, 3 shekel. Noisin kepacha shebe'erachin, he gives the smallest, the lowest rate that's found in Erachin. How much is that? Become a pacha shebe'erachin, shleisha shekalim. That's the 3 shekel rate that applies to a nekeva in the age bracket between a month and 5 years old. So that's the lowest rate. Says the Gemara, maybe he was trying to be extra generous. Maybe 50 shekel. Why limit it to 5? The answer is, when we're in doubt, we have to do without. You can't compel him to pay more than the lowest rate. Maybe that's all he had in mind. Tafasta maruba, when you're trying to grab something big, loy tafasta, you haven't necessarily grabbed it, meaning you can't know that it's the biggest, so you have no right. Tafasta more tafasta, but in this case, if you grab the smallest amount, so you take the smallest, lowest rate, tafasta, and you're sure that you have at least that much right. You have a right to take the smallest amount. This is a saying that's applied many times throughout Shas. Right? If you don't know, we have to go with the lowest. In which case, for sure you're right, because if you expand and progress further, who says, right? So this way, you can only send them a bill for the lowest amount. Ve'ema shekel, why stop at 3? Go down to even 1 shekel. The pasuk speaks about giving only 1. The answer is, that's not really a rate. It's not an official rate. That's for a person who can't afford. As explained earlier, we assess him based on his financial situation. And the lowest rate, the lowest amount he'll give, let's say he committed to 50, but he can't afford, he'll give at least 1 shekel, no less than that. That's regarding a person who can't afford. But in terms of committing to a rate, the smallest rate is 3 shekel. Okay, if that's the case, then why do we need a pasuk for this? He's committing to something, and at the least it's 3 shekel, that's all you can obligate him. Why do we need a special pasuk for this? Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravo. You know what the pasuk is coming to teach us? Of course he has to pay it. But let's say he's having some financial difficulties. He wants us to give him a discount below the 3 shekel mark. Leimar, the pasuk is teaching us, no way, she'eino nidan b'heseg yad. You can't apply heseg yad. You can't assess and discount him on this. Why? Why different than any other erech obligation? The answer is my time. The reason is, it's as though he's specified, I'm giving 3 shekalim. Rashi explains. Unlike a regular erech, where a person isn't necessarily aware of the age, etc., of his, subject matter. So there, he's committing to an erech as per the rate that will be, affixed on him, right? But in this case, we left it unspecified. It's clear that that's going to generate the lowest rate obligation, right? 3 shekalim. It's like he said, 3 shekalim. Now, if you commit to 3 shekalim, there's no discounts. The whole heseg yad discount system applies to erachin. But if you pledge $3, you got to pay $3. Ikadami, there's another version, actually the other way around. Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabba Ravoa. Even in this case of the unspecified erech, which triggers a 3 shekel obligation, he can get a discount based on finances. Nidain b'heseg yad. Well, pshita, why not? Of course. Why different than any other erech? Well, the tamer perhaps is room to think that there's a difference, as we explained. Because in this case, as though he specified, he gave a dollar amount. Kamashman, the point is no. The fact is, it's like any other pledge, any other erech, which allows for discounting based on financial hardship. Let's go back to the Brisa. The word be'erkecha teaches us it has to be a complete erech on the full person. Erech kula hinoisen. It's only obligated if he committed to the erech of the entire person. But let's say he pledges the erech of one's hand, one's foot. Ve'inoisen. Erech dmei evarim. There's no paying erech on limbs. Says the Gemara, fikti erech stam. But this very pasuk had already been applied for a different halacha, for the unspecified erech system. How can we learn multiple halachas from the same pasuk? Kari Bey, the answer is like this. The pasuk could have said erech to tell us about erech stam. Why erkecha? The erkecha is coming to add. The erech has to relate to the person in totality, not to limbs. Okay, perhaps I'll even exclude if the limb that he's referring to is a vital, important limb, like a heart, like the head, upon which his life force is dependent. Talmud, the answer is nefashos. It's all about life. So if it's a vital organ, it represents the life force of the person and triggers an erech. What else from nefashos? Leis hameis, as opposed to a person who's a mace. What do you mean? You already used this pasuk a minute ago. How can we kari bein nefesh? The answer is to teach us the first halacha about the vital organ. It could have sufficed with saying nefesh. Nefashos comes to add loy es hameis. So I rule out the mace. What about a person who's a goysis on the verge of dying? Perhaps I should not exclude the goysis. He has to be able to stand up, and that excludes a goysis. If that's the case, once you've come onto this new drasha, it has to be stood up, then the mace could be excluded from that as well. So basically, a mace and a goysis can be excluded from the same pasuk. Why require a new pasuk of nefashos for exclusion of the mace? Achanami, you're right. So what do we learn from nefashos over nefesh? We have another halacha for that, as we're going to see coming up soon. As we're going to come across Lemema and say, come on, coming up soon. Okay, the Brisa continues that in fact nefashos teaches us many halachas. Perhaps only one pleasure, referring to one person. What about echad sherech mea? He pledged the erech of a whole group, 100 people. How do you know that works? So a whole collective erech works as well. What else from nefashos? That a woman can pledge erech as well. Perhaps erech only applies to a man, as the pasuk begins, ish ki yafli, right? Sheherechu, declare an erech on another man or another woman. Beinish beinisha. What about a woman who initiates a erech? Shericha, who initiated the erech on a man or a woman. Ish, or beisha shericha isha, a woman on a woman. How do you know that's also valid? Nefashos. So any person, gender irrelevant. Davar acher. What else from nefashos? Lahavi menuval umokeshchen. To tell you that even a person who's unsavory, a person's repulsive, mokashchen, full of boils, who cannot really be considered marketable. So he doesn't really have the nether concept on him. He's not market value. Nevertheless, the erech, which is fixed rate based on vitality, based on life force within a person, which is independent of his market productivity abilities, right? A person's a person, right? So erech applies to him as well. Ask the Gemara, how could we learn so many halachas from the same word nefashos? It's been used for the other halachas. The one about the multiples, right? The group. One is about the woman, right, doing the erech. Says the Gemara. And what about the vital organ issue? The answer is hanach litzrichi kra. Those halachas do not really need a source in the pasuk. Meaning that just the word nefesh, without nefashos, just nefesh alone, can provide a source for all those halachas as one. They can be sourced in the same pasuk. My time is shakolu, because really they're all equal. The word nefesh indicates vital organ, indicates group of people, indicates man or woman. So basically, there's no reason to prefer one halacha over the other. They could all be sourced in the same word. If you have kulam, they can derive them all from the same word. So what is the pasuk? Add nefashos, the vav samach, vav saf. The extra suffix that word is to teach us is nu halacha nuvel mukashchin. What is needed for that? is learned l'rabes tumtum v'adrignus l'damim. These individuals who are not really on the erech track because they're not gender defined, but damim does apply. You can pledge their market value. Damim might lam likra. Why a new pasuk for this? I mean, you can pledge any value of anything if you want. Lo yehei alud mei dikla. Imagine you're pledging the value of a palm tree sitting in your backyard. You can do that. Ilu Omar, if you would have gotten up and said, Mei Diklam, promising the value of my Milo, wouldn't you have to give it? So why highlight that neder, which is pretty much just another version of a monetary pledge, applies to tumtum adregnus? Why not? It's true, the basic halacha is obvious. The pasuk here is adding another dimension. Covered of the person, his life source, his head, his heart. So we judge it by significance, which means to say, it's really another way of saying the halacha of Eiver Shanashama Tluyiboy that we had before. An Eiver, a limb, which provides vitality, which is a vital organ. So the point here is that even the tumtum adregnus, who don't really walk the erech track, right, which really is a life force related concept, providing a fixed rate, irrespective of your ability to produce and to perform, right? It's gender, age based, that's it. So really it's a life force type of concept. So they're out of that. But when they come to neder, they're on the neder track like anybody else, like any item of value. But you would think perhaps the life force element doesn't really apply here, meaning, to a certain extent, this idea of vital organ is related to life force. It's not the head per se, it's not the heart, it represents the whole living entity. So perhaps the tumtum adregnus don't have that concept. So if you pledge their actual value, so okay, if you pledge their full value, so it's as per their value in the market. If you pledge their heart, so as per that the value of that heart, so to speak, right? So there's no concept of Eiver Shanashama Tluyiboy that we differentiate between this kind of limb and the vital organs, right? So that means there's room to think neder be'erech haksiv. The pasuk pairs together erech and neder. Erech is the fixed rate, neder is the market rate. So perhaps they're linked. Kol sheyeshna be'erechin, one who is subject to the erechin system, which is a life force concept. Likewise, the idea of kvoidoi, being judged by significance in terms of vital organs, being representative of the entire person, would apply. But one who is not subject to the erechin concept perhaps doesn't have the other concept as well. Right? So if a fellow pledges the market value of a tumtum, but instead of saying the whole tumtum, he says the head of the tumtum, perhaps it doesn't trigger a full obligation in terms of full value of the person. Rather, we just, obligate him in terms of the value of the head per se. Comes the pasuk to tell us, and that's what the Bryce is highlighting, that even a tumtum who's exempt from erechin, but he's on the nether track all the way to the point that vital organs are considered representative of the entire person, and you're obligated to the full value. I have a question. So what are you saying? That the idea of kvoide applies even in a case where erechin doesn't? One who's not subject to the erechin system, is he going to be evaluated by kvoide? Again, that the vital organ is considered representative of the entire body? Tani, listen to this price, which brings us 3 examples. Roish Evetz a Hegdish. I'm being magdish, I'm giving away to Hegdish the head of my slave, just the head. It becomes a 50-50 proposition. Who? So the owner, the Hegdish and the Hegdish, Shutafim might become partners, 50-50. We assume that's what he meant. Even though he spoke about the head, he means, we'll split the Eved. Roish Eved Mochalach, likewise. Here, my good friend, I'm selling you the head of my Eved. Mesham and Meneh, they have to evaluate, estimate the values, appraise the Eved, and they become partners, 50-50. Another example, Roish Chamar Hegdish. He's giving away the head of his donkey to Hegdish. Him and Hegdish became newfound partners. Who Hegdish Shutafim by? Roish Chamar Mochalach, I'm selling you the head of my donkey. Misham and once again, they appraise the value and they, split the chamar. Roish para machalach, I'm selling you the head of my cow. In this case, it's not 50-50. Lo machal roisha. It's only considered as he sold a head. Roisha shapara. But furthermore, even by hegdesh doesn't get more than the head in this case. Ela afilu roish para hegdesh. Even if he gives away the head of his para to hegdesh, ein hegdesh l'roisha, the hegdesh gets the head and the head only. Why not 50%, like in the case of the slave or the donkey? Well, I'll explain to you why. Tam is dab and reisha the Torah, because typically they sell the head of a cow. On the meat house. So basically, it's something which is typically sold on its own. So that's what he meant. Not so by the evidence, but the chamar. There we assume, even though he expressed it as that, he meant 50-50. Now the question is like this. In the first two cases, the last two cases, the donkey and the cow. They're not subject to the concept of ARACHIN. There's no ARACHIN on a cow, right? And it would seem that would be the reason why we don't reckon with the importance of that limb that he pledged or sold. Meaning, despite the fact that it's a vital organ, we don't say, well, he really meant the entire thing. No, it's limited to that organ or to 50%. So apparently it is linked. Unlike the previous Gemara, which concluded that there's no link between the two. So even if there's no Erechem, but you could have Nidim Achvoide. With Tamech says more, according to you, Tikshalach, what about that first case in the Bryce? Tikshalach Eved, you have a kasha from the Eved. The Yisei Be'erechen, Ve'eni Nidim Achvoide. Here, it certainly is subject to the Erech system. You can make an Erechen on an Eved, and still we ignore Kvoidai. We ignore the fact that the head is the vital organ. So basically, either way, you got to answer this Bryce somehow and differentiate it from our previous discussion. Eloi Kash, the answer is like this. Our previous discussion pertained to Erechin, which is money pledged to the Bedek HaBayis, the building fund. It's a financial obligation. It's not a carbon for the Mizbeach. So there we say the concept of Nidi B'chvoidoi, Ever Shana Shamat. If you speak about vital, it's the whole thing, right? But here it's Kachem Mizbeach. Here he's pledging the value of these items to be used to purchase a curb. It's a whole different system. There we don't find this concept of, reckoning with the vital organ element. This price speaks about Kachem Mizbeach, different system. The previous discussion was regarding Erechin, monetary pledges straight to the Bedek HaBayis, in which case we distinguish based on vitality and importance of that limb that was referred to. Okay, so we'll continue with Hashem tomorrow, continue exploring this sugya. So far, what do we have? We have examples of Hakoil, Chayavim, Kohan V'Lin Israel. We explained why we seek to include everybody. Why would I think otherwise? Then we start with this Bryce that covered so many different elements regarding Erechin, etc. Based on the Psukim, the Erkech and the Fashois. So we learn, for instance, that a Menubel Mokashchin, even though he's exempted from Erechin, but he's on the nether track, and Tiltum Adreganus, that are not on the Erech track. So the Menubel Mokashchin is not on the nether track, but it is on the Erech track. And Tiltum Adreganus is the opposite. They're not on the Erech track, but they are on the nether track. Furthermore, they have a concept of Nidim Echvoidai, right? We had a little discussion regarding the fact that the erech has to relate to the entire person. You can't make an erech on a limb, but except if it's a limb shah najam tluyiba, in which case it triggers a full erech on full amount. We spoke about erech stam, unspecified erech triggering the lowest rate. We had a question whether we give him a discount for financial hardship, whether it's considered like an express nether or just like any other erech. And we're right in the middle of a discussion whether there's a linkage between Nidim Echvoidai and erech. The Gemara concluded not. But now we had a kasha and we answered, well, that's only by Kachem Mizbeach. The idea of Nidim Echvoidai is limited to Kachem Bedek HaBayis, and Bez Hashem will explore it further tomorrow. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.